Welcome to Barnyard Language. We are Katie and Arlene, an Iowa sheep farmer and an Ontario dairy farmer, with 6 kids, 2 husbands, and a whole lot of chaos between us. So kick off your boots, reheat your coffee, and join us for some Barnyard Language, honest talk about running farms and raising families.
In case your kids haven't already learned all the swears from being in the barn, it might be a good idea to put on some headphones or turn down the volume. While many of our guests are professionals, they aren't your professionals. If you need personalized advice, consult your people. Welcome back to another episode of Barnyard Language. We are so happy that you're joining us here today. And I will start, as every week, and ask Katie what's going on in the farm, what's going on in the house, how are things in Iowa today?
Looks like we're gearing up for another nasty summer thunderstorm at some point today. We had a big one Tuesday. Thankfully, we did not get the golf ball size hail, so our crops are all still looking pretty okay. Yeah.
And are those the kind that come with tornado warnings too?
Yeah. I was in a daycare board meeting when the warnings started going off, and so the daycare has an automated system that announces it through the PA, and then apparently everybody on the board is signed up. Our county has an emergency management system that texts, emails, and calls at the same time. So there's 7 of us whose phones are blowing up and this PA system. And I was like,
so you had lots of notice if something
was I was like, you think they want our attention about something? I mean, better that than, that's how people get killed, is when they don't know about tornado warnings. So, and I mean, obviously you can get killed even with an effective warning.
Yeah, you could be warned.
It's safer to have some warning about it happening. So big storm, looks like another one coming in. It is that time of year. And other than that, all the crops are in. We got first crop hay in, cotton baled and everything. And with this rain, and it's been mid to high 80s every day, the hay is coming back with a vengeance, which is fantastic, and the corn is growing real well. Cows are good, sheep are good, chickens are improving. We've taken out, Jim and his cousin took out 7 raccoons the other night, and we have plenty more to go. Oh yeah. So there's that. Kids are good. We've been working on our bedtime routine. So
How's that going?
I'm working on convincing them that they can fall asleep in the same bed, which makes it a lot easier because they're still too little for one person to effectively put them to bed in different rooms, because they insist that someone needs to sit with them, which is kind of the high point of my day, honestly. I'm sure it's not the very best for their sleep habits to have someone stay with them until they fall asleep, but they're gone all day. We're working all day. I'm not going to give up my 20 minutes of cuddle time with my babies. But with them refusing to be in the same bed and Jim being out farming until late at night, it's been kind of a shit show with bedtime, which basically involves everybody passing out on the couch and then getting shuffled up to bed late and whatever.
Right. So that's not your ideal routine then.
That is not my ideal routine, because I also pass out on the couch and then miss,
right,
seeing my husband or doing anything. So, knock on wood, we've been working on sleeping in the same bed, and they seem to sleep better when they sleep together anyway. So, they're kind of like a little pile of puppies. And they're getting better about taking turns, which has really helped sleeping in the same bed, because they're not fighting over who gets to sleep next to mommy, which, whatever.
There's always something to fight about.
Yeah. I'm trying to enjoy this time where I am the highest value prize, because I know that in a very short few years, they're going to be horrified by the fact that they have parents and, be super embarrassed.
I would say we're not there, but no one is as really clamoring for me to tuck them in anymore. So I shouldn't say that. My 7-year-old still would prefer that I read him stories and tuck him in, and I still get to sing Twinkle Twinkle at the end of the day. But other than him, there's not really anybody who's desperate for me to tuck them in. I mean, I still do. They just pretend they don't like it.
We have a pretty enthusiastic hugging routine when I drop them off at daycare and at school. And I've noticed that a lot of other kids will get up from the tables to come watch. And I'm never sure if I should offer them hugs as well, because they're little kids and but at the same time, our culture is pretty don't touch my children, which is understandable and also sad. So we have
Yeah.
to do squeeze hugs and then pick me up hugs and then hug us both at the same time and then another squeeze hug and then a whole bunch of kisses and then I can leave. So
That's
I'm
cute.
guessing that's going to be a lot more awkward when they're like 14 and 15 and I'm still demanding squeeze hugs every morning at school. Too bad. Tough
Yeah.
titties, kiddos.
Well, you
So
can ask. They might not consent though.
yeah, Arlene, I thought of a new question this morning that we should
Uh-oh.
be adding to these. What are you cooking for dinner?
I have no idea.
Huh, shit. Okay. Well,
It's only 10:30 in the morning.
well, spitball something that might be for dinner. I was thinking that I need
Uh,
new menu ideas, and this might be a good way to get them. We'll just
oh,
ask all of our
okay.
guests what they're cooking for
Yeah,
dinner.
don't ask me every week. Think I actually did get some lamb out of the freezer yesterday. So I guess lamb chops and something. I don't know what's going with it, but they're actually defrosting. So that is progress because often it's midday before I think to take anything out of the freezer.
Yeah, I feel bad, having sold meat direct market for so long and been like, never defrost in the microwave. It is evil because I basically defrost everything in the microwave because, yeah, I'm like, oh, hey, it's 4:30. I have to cook supper like now.
Yeah, that's
Frozen pizza or defrost something in the microwave? Yeah.
yeah,
Anyway,
absolutely.
so how are things on your farm, Arlene, with your
Things are
family?
good. It's funny actually. As we were logging on, I think that my husband must have seen my schedule because I got a text that says, "If Jim is wondering." So, if Jim is wondering, we did about 700 wrap bales of first cut and 380 dry bales. So that was the first cut count, and we finished first cut on, I want to say, today's Thursday that we're recording. I want to say we finished first cut Tuesday and we started second cut on Wednesday. So just the order that all of our different fields were ready means that as we finish one, we just roll right into the next. So second cut has already started.
That's some impressive planning and timing right there. And
Yeah, there
also,
could have been overlap.
yeah. Also, thanks to you, that really just took us up a couple notches in the
We got the stats.
farmeriness of this
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, exactly. Other barn news, we have 3 new bull calves just born yesterday morning, so that was delightful. Just what every dairy farmer wants is a bunch of bulls all at once. There was a single, and then we helped another one calve before we started to milk, and then at one point turned around and realized that she was having twins, which we didn't know. The first one was big, so we just never expected there to be a second one. So the second one was also a bull. So yeah, so I've got three bulls on bottles and then another little heifer calf on a bottle that I think I can get onto a bucket soon. So yes, lots of bottle feeding in the calf barn. Not lots probably compared to other farms, but for us to have 4 on the bottle at the same time is enough for me. I don't think there's a ton else on farm news. On the family news, my father-in-law got home from the hospital, so that was exciting. We're pretty lucky that a lot of his care is going to move into the house, so that is good. There'll be physio and occupational therapy and those types of services will all be available to come to their home, so that's good. We may still get some calls every now and then for assistance, I'm sure, and lots of visiting back and forth, but it's nice to not have the visitor restrictions and the drive to the hospital to contend with anymore. So that was pretty exciting for everybody.
I think
And
that's one thing that really, and it's fantastic news, and I'm super glad to hear that he's home. I think that's one thing that really gets not talked about in rural healthcare is, when you have to drive to town every day for an appointment,
mhm,
how much time that can eat up.
yeah, and especially if
Especially,
it's someone who has mobility issues,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Which is what he's dealing with. So yeah, then you add a whole other element of the transportation piece is huge.
yeah. Well, and especially too, like with pregnancy or anything that has more like blood testing and things, you know, spending an hour and a half in the car for a literally 5-minute appointment is just
Hmm.
kind of, I mean, therapy at least takes longer, but I'm sure too, it's nice to be able to, go rest right afterwards without having to get home first and, do
Yeah.
that.
I
And
will say I've been impressed with in pandemic, and whether we're post pandemic or not, I don't know, but some of our health services they will still allow us to do over the phone, which is kind of nice because there are some of those appointments that you really don't have to be in person. I mean, it's nice if it's an option, but to be able to book an appointment, even some of my father-in-law's appointments, my mother-in-law would be in the hospital with him, but we could call in and still be part of it. And so whether we even said anything or not, at least we could take notes for her, or just be a second or third set of ears who might come up with a question, or have something that we could ask the doctor that maybe they wouldn't think of, or that maybe got forgotten or something. So
yeah,
it is nice to have that option to call in or video chat into to different services too.
yeah. Well, and I think especially for folks who have, chronic health conditions or things where, like, if you're already monitoring your blood pressure at home and, you have a pretty good handle on things, like, why take up the resources to go to the doctor's office if you can just call
Hmm.
in and chat with them about it? I
Yeah,
mean,
for sure.
most of my appointments are pretty straightforward. So,
Yeah.
it's nice to not have to actually drive over there to do them.
Yeah. And then the other update in our house was, as I think I mentioned last week, my 14-year-old who's in grade 8, he officially graduated from his elementary school. So that was an exciting night. We got to see all the little kiddos dressed up in their suits and fancy dresses. And I just love watching some of the girls who had like the really cute running shoes that match their dresses, which I love. And I mean, however they want to dress is totally cool. But then there's the others who are like trying heels for maybe the first time. So then they're, tottering around or trying to walk on the grass for photos and having their heels sink in and stuff. That, yeah, it's just super cute. And it's fun to see a lot of them. I've been together for 10 years. Our school starts in junior kindergarten. So if they've been there the whole time, they've been a decade together. So a lot of these little people that I've seen grow up. And of course, they do the slideshow that makes you cry with all their little baby and elementary school photos, and then their big grade 8 graduation one. So it was very cute.
And did you say that Hugh took your son suit shopping? Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, he did
They did
that.
an
Yes.
excellent job. He looked very nice.
He was quite handsome. And I've said before, my 14-year-old is not neurotypical, so he has some neurodiversities, and so he was really excited about his graduation, and they were having a dance afterwards, which he wanted to attend, which was great. And then about probably 20 minutes after we left, I got a call from his teacher, and he wasn't able to tolerate the sound of a dance, which is not unexpected. I think he was kind of disappointed, and maybe we didn't think through enough what it would feel like for him, because I mean, he hasn't attended a dance before. The school might have had them in the last couple of years, but those things didn't happen because of COVID. And yeah, I haven't been to any weddings or anything in a while. And he has sometimes worn ear protection at school for different things, but I guess it just slipped my mind in terms of packing earplugs or something like that. So they did turn down the music for a while, but even then he had gotten to the point where he couldn't tolerate it. So he came home, but there was another family who was hosting an after party. So they were having a pool party after the dance was done, and he still wanted to go to that. So that was cool. So he came home and chilled out for an hour, and then around the time the pool party was starting, then we headed back out again. So at least he still got to celebrate with his friends, just not at a dance. And that's fine. Not everybody likes dances.
Well, and it's great that it sounds like his school is supportive and understanding and helpful about these things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. We have been really lucky because school has not always been easy for him or an easy place for him to be. But we've all along had really great teachers, and we've accessed lots of other resources, and always had administration who are willing to make modifications and help help him in any way that they could. So I'm hopeful that high school will be similar. We've already talked to a few people there and have a extra tour scheduled for him in August so that he can check out the school where it's not so loud and chaotic, because now it's moving between classes too, which is going to be new. So that'll be a whole other fun thing.
I know for myself too, there are things like dances that the volume of the music might be fine in a place that's not like a high school gymnasium, which tends to be real echoey. And even the echoiness might be fine if it wasn't late at night, and there tends to be a lot of flashing lights, and they tend to be at, like the end of exciting days if you're like at a wedding dance or whatever. And there's just a lot of
Yeah.
factors where one or two of the things would be okay, but all of the things is definitely not okay.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, wearing new clothes that don't really feel the same, and shoes that might be pinching your feet, and other kids who are singing along to the songs and all that kind of stuff is a lot all at once. So
Yeah.
I get it.
Yep. So
So
I'm
I think
glad he
that's
got
the
to go
main.
and try it
Yeah,
anyway.
for
And,
sure.
you know,
Me too. Yeah, so I think that's the main update. So the kids are out of school, so that means they're hanging out with us every day. We do have a couple
lucky
of camp.
children.
Yes, they love it. I've started a new chore of the day routine in the house because I have gotten into the habit of kind of taking on everything, which I tend to do. So I'm getting more diligent and more conscious about actually assigning tasks to people and teaching them what success looks like in those tasks. So we'll see how long it lasts. We're only 3 days in, so it could completely go by the wayside in another week. But for now, it's working. And they're doing more in the barn too. But this is on the household side.
Yeah, I'm trying. I had read an article about basically randomly rewarding kids for things that you catch them doing that are good to, encourage them to just do more good things in hopes of getting caught doing them.
Right.
So the this was the very first time I tried it, but the girl child has seen a dollhouse that she deeply cannot live without. She will die. She has a dollhouse, but this
one's
dollhouse
definitely
is
better.
better. And but it's also like $80, which for Christmas fine, but I'm not going to drop $80 just
Because she really
randomly.
wants it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other day she comes down and she says, "Mommy, I cleaned my room. You didn't even ask me to." And she'd done an impressively good job for a 5.5-year-old. And so I gave her some money. And I mean, this was the first time we'd ever done it. She had no expectation that she was going to get anything besides a cleaner
Mhm.
room. But now she just keeps walking up to me and asking me for money. And every time I have to say, "No, you have to do stuff first."
Right.
And so she'll
what is it that I could do?
go put away 2 shoes and then come back and be like, "Now can I have some money?" No.
Right.
You don't get money just for doing the things that you're supposed to be doing because you live in the house and you're a human. Like, you
Yeah.
get money for extra things, not for not being a monster. That's not how this works.
Yeah. Good idea in theory, Katie. It's already backfiring on you.
I know folks who've had really good luck doing it, but I think you have to be pretty consistent for quite a while. So maybe I think they had said too that they start with just like carrying a pocket full of quarters, and every time they even like see one kid help a sibling, they give them a quarter to sort of
Right.
reinforce the concept, of helping. And Arlene, since you have not asked what I'm cooking for dinner, because I
Oh,
actually
sorry.
do have
What
a
are you
plan
cooking for dinner?
tonight.
That's why you asked, because you have a plan.
Well, no, because I was thinking about it while I was cooking dinner. Today is Jim's last day at the job that he's had for literally more than half his life. He's starting at our local feed mill on Tuesday because Monday is the 4th of July. It's Independence Day in the US. So it's an exciting and emotional day for him, which we're not going to talk about because he's a stoic Midwestern farmer.
Yes, yeah.
We're
It's a
never
thing
going
that's
to.
happening. Yeah.
Yes.
But we
So
won't discuss it.
I will bear all of the emotions for everyone.
Good plan.
But I wanted to make a nice dinner, so we're having pot roast and carrots and mashed potatoes and chocolate cake. Mostly because I want chocolate cake, and
If you're the one making it, then you get to make what you want.
yeah. Well, and you always see, like you go to a restaurant and you see chocolate cake on the menu, and like no matter what, I will order it knowing full well that it's going to be some like frozen from Costco, thawed out monstrosity.
Never as good as what you can make at home.
Never as good.
Never.
So, if anyone needs me today, I will be making chocolate cake.
Sounds delicious.
Hopefully,
Too
there will be some
bad I
cake
live
left
too
when the
far
rest of the
away.
family gets home.
Yeah, that's right.
What cake? Yeah, there's chocolate frosting just dripping off my face. Yeah. If you come visit,
On that
Arlene,
note,
I'll make
why
another
don't we?
cake. How's that?
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll start looking at flights today.
Okay.
Should we move on to our guest for the day?
Sounds good.
All right, so let's do that.
Who is the guest for this week?
Today we're talking to Amber Bristow, who's a part of a multi-generational cranberry farm in Wisconsin. Amber is also a fellow podcaster and a new parent. Thank you for joining us, Amber.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here tonight.
So, Amber, we start each of our interviews with the same question, and this is a way to introduce yourself to our listeners. This can cover crops, families, businesses, and all manner of other things. So, our first question is always, what are you growing?
Well, I am growing a lot of problems. No, I'm just kidding. Like you mentioned, I'm a fifth generation cranberry grower here in West Central Wisconsin. So this cranberry marsh has been in my family since 1918, so over 100 years, which is pretty cool. So I am out here with my husband, my parents, and my grandma. I'm looking at her house right out my window right now. So we're all living right here on this little tiny compound. And then I also have a cousin who's just right up the road who lives and works out here as well. So it's truly a homegrown family operation. But aside from cranberries, I have a cat named Winnie. So if you hear some rustling around, that's just her in the background. You never know. And then I also have a Bernese mountain dog. His name is Bear. You might hear him as well. He's a big dumb idiot, but we love him. And I also have a fresh 8-month-old. His name is Porter. So he's the first of the sixth generation and the OG cran baby. So that's kind of all on my plate right now, and I love it.
So Amber, oh, hey, look, it's totally my question. So Amber, one of the things I've really realized doing this podcast is how much I don't know about anything besides like shit we grow. Like I was talking to somebody about cotton one day and realized that I like know about the cotton gin that Eli Whitney invented, and then like that it takes a lot of water. So I know fuck all about growing cranberries. Like my husband said something, we're driving across Wisconsin, he's like, cranberry bogs. And I'm like, the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like cranberries grow in Massachusetts or something, right? And like, so what I know about growing cranberries is like the picture on the back of the Ocean Spray Harvest bottle, you know, the Ocean Spray cranberry juice bottle where it's like two dudes in hip waders.
Actually,
so what can you tell
gonna
us
interrupt
about?
you quick.
Do it.
I'm actually going to be on a juice label here pretty soon. So watch out for these new labels coming out. Because
Are you in hip waders?
No, I'm not. That's a different story. No, it's my whole family, which is cool. But no, we're in my mom's living room, which is weird. But anyway,
is the cram baby in the picture?
We took this picture like when I was pregnant, like kind of freshly pregnant, but not like showing. So I just looked like a bloated whale. So it was a great time.
Perfect. So, this is your moment.
This is my moment. I'm like, my face is fat. My stuff, like it's not cute at all. And they kept pushing the label back. And I'm like, hey, now that the baby's here, can we retake this picture? Because it was like all over Zoom and like, it was just like this whole big thing. So they weren't allowed to come and like take the picture in person. And they're like, nope, sorry, we're stuck with this. But it's fine. It's fine. I shouldn't complain.
So you could be on bottles for years.
Yeah, looking like a whale. So thanks guys. It's fine.
So does Porter have his own hip waders yet? Is this like a requirement?
He came out of the womb with them.
He's just already in hip waders.
Yeah. Yeah, just slides right out. I wish it was that easy.
I'm just picturing, I'm sorry. Yuck.
It's like slip and slide.
Oh, she's totally one of us, Arlene.
Anyway, so you want to know how cranberries are grown?
Yes, please.
Yeah, we'll move back around to that. Okay. Yeah, there's the question.
Let's take this on back. So yeah, cranberries do grow in Massachusetts, but Wisconsin is actually the number one cranberry growing state in the world, actually. So we produce over 60% of the world's supply of cranberries. Massachusetts also grows them, New Jersey, out in Oregon, Washington State, some in Canada, and those are kind of like the main spots, but Wisconsin is the number one for sure. So a little chip on our shoulder there. It's pretty cool. So they are one of the few native fruits to North America. So they are found grown wild out here. And way back when, we found a way to kind of cultivate that and make it into like a larger crop. So the cranberries that you see out in the wild are going to look and taste a little bit different than what we're growing currently. So they actually grow in sand. So they're not grown in water. I know that's like our biggest misconception is cranberries don't grow in water. And that was kind of the main reason why I started my Instagram page, is to educate people on how cranberries are grown, because everybody's just so familiar with that image of cranberries floating in water that they just, put two and two together. That's how they're grown. But we are in a marshy area, so our water table is very high out here. So literally just stick your finger in the ground, there's water. Like that's how, that's kind of what our water table is like. And our soil is very sandy and acidic. So we can't grow a lot of other crops out here, but cranberries love this sandy soil. So it's almost like a beachy yellow sand. And we use that soil just because it drains really well and doesn't hold a lot of moisture, because even though cranberries don't grow in water, they require a lot of water throughout the year to grow. And we also use water to protect them from cold weather. So all winter long, we're using water all year round. So that sandy soil really helps drain that extra water, so they're not sitting in water constantly. So I'll try to keep this as quick as possible, but it's a whole year operation. So they are a perennial plant, so we don't have to replant them every single year. Some of our vines are still producing fruit and they're over 60 years old. So I think, I don't want to give my mom's age, but she was tiny when these vines were planted and they're still producing fruit. So that's pretty cool. So at the end of a plant's life cycle, we'll notice that the production isn't up to our standards anymore. And after that final harvest, we'll dig everything out, dig up all the roots, dig up the entire plant, dig out all the old dirt, and then we'll haul in fresh sand, level it out. And then in the springtime, what we do to plant is we'll actually go out into a bed of a variety that we prefer, and we'll go and we'll mow those vines right down to the ground. And then we'll go over with a baler and just pick those vines up and then compact them into pretty much a hay bale full of cranberry vines. Keep those under running water until it's warm enough for us to plant. And then we'll take those bales of vines and we'll just shake them out on top of that fresh sand that we laid from the bed that we had dug out the previous fall. And then once those vines are sprinkled pretty heavy, we'll go in with a disker and then we'll just run over those vines and kind of push them into the ground, put our irrigation back out there, run water, fertilize them, and then they're self-propagating. So they'll start to grow from those vine trimmings. And then the bed that we had gotten those vines from, they'll also continue to grow. They'll regrow from from what we mowed it down to. So it takes about 2 to 3 years for those vines to grow and develop until we get a sizable crop off of them. So that's kind of like what we're doing in the spring. We're also busy getting our irrigation set up. So after the crop is harvested in the fall, the plant will go into dormancy. So the vine just kind of like shuts itself down, doesn't continue to grow, but they still need to be protected over the winter months. And when they kind of start coming out of dormancy in the spring, usually right around this time, we need to protect those buds that have already developed from the frost and from the cold spring nights, early mornings. So we have irrigation and we run those overnight into the morning to keep the frost from sticking to the plant and kind of killing that bud off, because that's where the fruit develops. And then in the summer months, just a lot of vine maintenance, making sure that the plants are healthy and growing well, making sure the fruit's developing. So we also need to irrigate quite often. So usually about an hour and a half every morning we're irrigating. And then also applying fertilizers, again, making sure everything's growing well. And then harvest occurs in the fall. So for us, it's usually mid-September until the end of October. So usually like a 4 to 5 week process for us. And the way that works, so again, the cranberries are pretty dry year round. We can walk out there without getting your feet wet. So we use water to really help to make our harvest process easier. So all of our fruit goes to Ocean Spray. They are a grower-owned co-op, which is pretty cool. So all of our fruit goes in for processing. So we don't do any fresh fruit harvest. So that's a completely different process. But all of our fruit goes in for juices, craisins, sauce, jellies, whatever. So when it's time to start harvesting, we'll actually flood up the cranberry beds where the vines are growing, just a couple of inches. And we have this tractor that drives right down into the vines. And it has like these little fingers on the front and on the back of this tractor. And those fingers go right down into the ground, right down at the base of the vines. And he'll just drive through the water and drive through the vines. And these little fingers will just kind of gently comb the berries right off of the vine. And the cranberries will actually float to the surface of the water. So if you crack a cranberry open, there's 4 hollow chambers in there, which create air pockets and which allow the cranberries to float. So once all of the fruit is off of the vines, then we'll go and we'll add that extra water to really help get those berries to float up to the top of get them out of the vine so they're not kind of getting caught in there. And then we'll corral all the cranberries to one end of the bed that they're growing in. And we come in with our berry pump, which is essentially like this giant vacuum. And it's really hard to describe if you haven't seen it. So I'm just going to call it like a big vacuum. And it goes right down into the water with all the berries. It just kind of sucks them up out of the water. And it goes up this big tube on top of this big platform. And then the cranberries will go into the back of a semi truck and we haul that straight to Ocean Spray. So from the time that we start flooding everything until it's into the back of the semi truck and to Ocean Spray, it's about a 48-hour window. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. And then once we're done picking up all that fruit, we'll pull the water off and recycle it back to the ponds where it came from. So we only do small chunks at a time. So we're not doing our entire property all at once. So that's why we kind of spread it out for those several weeks. So we can't leave the vines underwater for too long. Otherwise they'll suffocate. They're not getting the oxygen. So then after our harvest process is done, then again, if we have renovations that we need to do in the spring, again, we'll dig out those old vines, haul all that old material out, and we dump it into piles that we use that old dirt for like road repairs. So everything is just kind of getting recycled and reused out here. And then in the winter, when it starts to get really cold, like bitterly cold, so usually around Christmas or New Year, we'll flood everything back up with water. So up to that harvest flood, so about 2 feet of water, all the vines get in water. And then we wait for that water to freeze into a thick layer of ice. And then once we have, so usually that takes about 7 to 10 days. And after that time period, again, we'll pull any extra water off of those vines, recycle it back where it came from. And then that layer of ice will kind of settle on top of the vines and protect the vines from cold all winter long. So we do that process over and over again until we get about like 14 to 16 inches of ice. And then what we do is we have this giant sand pile that the cranberries grow in, that same sand. So we have a big sand pile, and then we'll load up dump trucks full of this sand, drive out on top of that ice, and then just spread a thin layer of sand on top of the ice. So then in the spring, when all that ice melts, that sand will filter through the vines and kind of push the vines down, and that causes new vine growth. So the cranberry plant is a running vine. So it's not really like a grapevine. So it's not like just stringy. They are a running vine. So they do have those runners, but with that sand pushing down on top of it, those runners will create new roots. So then it kind of grows more upright instead of running. So if you're walking out there, it's very similar to a shag carpet, is what I like to tell people. So it's pretty dense, and it doesn't hurt the vine to walk out there by any means. But adding that sand on top of the ice in the winter, again, creates new growth and also kind of suffocates any bug eggs that are out there. So it's a natural insect control as well. So in a nutshell, that's what we're doing all year long, and that's how you grow cranberries in a quick nutshell.
That is cool as shit, and I feel like I have so many more questions now.
Yeah, lay them on me.
So they're not growing in rows then, they're just kind of doing their thing, like just tossing my equipment everywhere, getting all excited about this.
So a cranberry bed for us, it's like an average size for us is probably like 2 to 3 acre rectangle, and it's kind of lower into the ground. So the roots are closer to the water table. So the roots are just usually always pretty damp. And then there's a ditch surrounding the bed where the vines are growing. So they're grown in these little separate beds, but the entire bed is just all cranberry vines. And so we have 230 acres of just cranberries growing like that, different shapes and sizes.
Have you ever considered playing hockey on top of it in the winter before you put the sand up? I
Yes.
mean, because, a 2-acre ice rink seems pretty...
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. And have you considered how, I'm going to go ahead and say disingenuous it is that it's called Ocean Spray, despite the fact that they're all coming from Wisconsin? Like, I get that central Wisconsin spray doesn't really evoke
doesn't
the
roll
same.
off the tongue.
You
Yeah.
call it badger spray, but that doesn't sound very good either. So,
Yeah, their Ocean Spray is headquartered out in Massachusetts, so I
okay,
mean, they're a little biased.
fair enough.
So was your family always growing for Ocean Spray, or in the times that it was beginning, were there local co-ops, or when did that happen?
Yeah, so I mean, Ocean Spray isn't that old. I think they started like back in 1930 something. I want to say,
Mhm.
don't quote me on any of this because I don't know. I might just be pulling this out of my butt.
That's all right. I trust you.
Don't fact check me. But back when we first started, there were local co-ops that we were part of. I think actually like my great granddaddy, the one that started the marsh, he was one of the founders of the local co-op. And then that just kind of like fell apart once Ocean Spray started coming in. And I want to say we've been with Ocean Spray maybe since the 70s,
Sure.
somewhere in there.
Are there cranberries? Are they? I think you already said this, but are they native to North America? Like it's not like your grandparents came from Europe or something and were like, "We'll try cranberries here." Like, so it was something that.
Smuggling cranberry vines in their
But
underpants or
you know,
something.
a lot of farmers came to North America with skills from other places, right? So like
Yeah.
obviously this is something that was developed in North America.
Yeah, this was something that was native to America, one of the few fruits. And so before this marsh was started, my great grandfather, he was working on a different marsh and he thought he could do it better. So that's like our whole family's mentality. Like, I see what you're doing, but I can do it way better than you. So then they came out here, and then my great grand whatever. So like this was kind of our home marsh. And then that family had like 3 or 4 kids, and we're pretty Irish. And all of those kids, they also wanted to work on the cranberry marsh, but they all hated working with each other. So they, again, I like what you're doing, but I can do it better. So they just kind of split off, and one son stayed here and worked with his dad, and the other kids, like, they just moved right down the road. So we have like a cousin literally right next door, and then another one right next to him. We have one right up the road, another one right down the road. So this is kind of like the home marsh, and then everyone else is still growing cranberries around us. So like our town has like 3 last names. You're either this, or this. And so it was really difficult dating in high school because you had to like come home and give a background check. Like, is this kid related to me? I
Yeah.
haven't heard of him before. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, sorry.
Is the tree forking far enough?
Yeah. So so I had to bring my husband in from like 3 towns over, and it's like, I don't think there's any of you here. So I think you're safe.
So is your husband working on the farm as well?
He is. So he didn't have any prior farm background before he met me, but he was really big into like hunting and fishing, like just a total outdoorsman. So I think once he kind of saw like our woods that we had, he's like, oh, I can hunt here. I'm going to stick with you. So now he's been out here since the fall after we got married. So he's been out here for 3 years now, and he's getting the hang of it.
You'll keep him.
Yeah, we'll keep him around.
Yeah.
I'm an imported farm wife too, and I always joke that it's like that Corblund song about going to a family reunion and seeing somebody you used to date. Like,
Yeah, that's
it's
accurate.
the same around here. So, I'm all about the hard-hitting journalism, obviously. 2 questions. How many generations in Cranberry Bogs do you think it would take before your kids started being born with webbed feet? I mean, it seems like a real advantageous thing. Better than the hip waders for sure. Like,
I mean, we're on the 6th generation right now, and I checked his toes, and
okay,
they're not
nothing
webbed
yet.
yet. So I'm gonna say at least like the 12th, maybe.
Okay, fair enough. I was
So
gonna
that's
feel
either
really awkward if you were like, my kid actually does have webbed toes.
I
Like, wow,
should
I'm a
have.
jackass. Okay.
So it's either gonna come from like inbreeding or just enough,
Yeah.
just evolution.
I understand. And then second hard-hitting question, because people have some real thoughts about this. Cranberry sauce, homemade, whole berry, or jelly? Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. No, I'm going there.
She's making you take a stand on this one.
Oh no.
And then we're going to call your mom and tell her what you said, and we'll see how much trouble you're in.
It's not my mom, it's my grandma. Like, I'm looking at her house, and I love her homemade, but there's just something about the whole berry from a can. Did you know you can shotgun it? You can shotgun from a cranberry sauce can. I did it for a TikTok last year. I cut the shit out of my lip.
This is basically the best thing I've ever heard. Like,
Wow.
this just moved to my favorite interview status. Like, how do you, I mean, how? I know I could go watch your TikTok, but
so I don't know if you guys read directions on the cranberry sauce, but you're supposed to open it from the bottom, like open it. I don't know why. I don't know why they just can't flip the label
out better. But why don't they just flip
know.
the label over? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's so anyway, so you pop the top on it, and then you have to get like a really sharp bottle opener, like the spade kind. And then don't cut yourself on that because you're holding like a round object and pushing on it. And then you have to like really kind of pry the can open and then you just suck it out. So it's not really shotgunning, it's just like sucking it out of the can, but
Shotgunning sounds better.
I thought so.
But
it's
then
fun.
you end up just like eating an entire can of cranberry sauce.
How else are you gonna eat cranberry sauce?
That's amazing. Like, I'm so inspired right now. This really says a lot about me that I'm like, this is some inspirational shit right here. Like, move over, Oprah. We're coming with the cranberry sauce shotgun.
I mean, it's Wisconsin, and like, what else are you supposed to do?
That's true.
No, I mean, your cousins.
Now we know why I don't drink during interviews. No, my family, we're all about the jellied, and you shake it straight out so it stays in the can shape, and then you can slice it right on the lines. But I know a lot of people are offended by that. So
I love it all. I don't discriminate.
I have a cranberry relish recipe that's really good. I'll Facebook it to you.
Thank you.
You probably don't want to shotgun it because it's like
chunky.
Also not in the can. So
that's fine. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, there you go. All right, now Arlene, you can move back to your more serious questions.
Do we have any more specifically cranberry related questions? I know. Oh, I did have another one. I was wondering, you were saying over harvest that you're doing different fields at different points. Do you have different varieties that mature at different times, or is there a certain, like, do they mature? Some fruit will ripen after you pick it, or like, is it a time crunch, or do you have a little bit of wiggle room during harvest time?
So we do have different varieties. So like most of our varieties, we plan it out so they do mature at different rates. So the way that like Ocean Spray wants the fruit is based off of color. So if you ever have like looked at fresh cranberries from a store or something, you notice that there might be like a white one in the mix. That doesn't mean that the fruit isn't ripe. It might have just been growing kind of closer to the bottom of the vine and it wasn't exposed to the cold weather. And the cold weather is what really turns the fruit that deep, dark red that you're familiar with. So actually the way you tell if a cranberry is ripe is by looking at the seeds. If the seed is brown on the inside, it's good to go. So if you do get those white fruit in there, just throw it in your refrigerator and it'll turn red eventually. So we actually will take samples from different varieties. So like our early varieties, they don't need that cold weather to turn that dark red. So they need milder temperatures. So obviously we're going to harvest those first. And then we'll take a small sample, like a gallon Ziploc bag to the Ocean Spray plant. They will test the color, let us know like our numbers. And then if it falls within a certain range, that's like our prime price point based off of color. So that's when we know we can start harvesting, or if it's not there yet, maybe wait a couple days. And that's just kind of how we go down the line. So we have like an early variety, a standard variety that's kind of like beginning to middle October. And then like the late varieties are those really cold, hardy fruit that need really cold temperatures to turn that dark color. So that's kind of how we base things. We kind of have it staggered throughout the marsh. So we're kind of working in a circle almost in the harvest process.
So over how many weeks then, are like September to November, or is it like a bit tighter in timeline?
Yeah. So like our early varieties, they're kind of like in the middle of September. And then we usually take like a week or two off at the end of September. And then it's all of October usually we start on the 1st and we usually are done on Halloween. So on the 31st. So it's like a five week thing. If we're really moving, we can get it done in 4 weeks, but yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. So the white cranberry juice, is that then a specific variety, or they are like just plucking out the ones that didn't turn?
So we actually used to harvest white fruit, and we would harvest that like in August, I think. So it's just harvested super early. They say it's supposed to be sweeter, but I don't think it really tastes much different. It might be a little bit lighter, but like taste wise, it's not as like heavy, quote unquote, but I don't think it really tastes any different. I think it just looks pretty.
Sure. Then they've got a different product to sell, right?
Yep.
So by Thanksgiving, do you guys even want to eat cranberry sauce, or are you like, you're over it?
Yes. No, I love it.
Still all for it.
I'm all for it. Yeah.
I love cranberry sauce. So
Good. That's what I like to hear.
Second question, two more questions actually. Where do I buy craisins that aren't just like straight corn syrup or whatever? Because a lot of the commercial ones are really, really sweet.
Yeah. Have you ever had a fresh cranberry? There's a reason why they're kind of sweet.
Yeah, I love them.
Do you?
I love sour food, so I'm like.
Okay, so I mean, I don't want to promote other people that aren't Ocean Spray, but
Okay.
there's this company, I think they're in Wisconsin. It's like Honest Cranberry or something, and they have like unsweetened dried cranberries. They're a little bit of a different texture. I think they're like air dried, so they're kind of like foamy, almost like a packing peanut type of a texture. But there's no sugar added to those whatsoever. There's also like 100% pure cranberry juice that Ocean Spray puts out. And that's really good in smoothies. And that's what I use as like my liquid base in my smoothie. So then you're getting like all the health benefits, but you're kind of burying it under a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're into that kind of thing, there's stuff out there for you too.
And then if I'm Susie Q housewife or house husband, whatever, at the grocery store buying fresh cranberries, is there something we should be looking for? Or
so you can only get fresh cranberries right around like the holidays, which is a real bummer. So cranberries don't thaw and freeze really well, so it's not great for grocery stores to keep year round because it's just they're tricky. So if you are buying them, when you see them, they do freeze well. They can stay in your freezer for like, we've had them in our freezer for like a year and I've used them and they're just fine. Or they'll stay in your refrigerator for like 6 weeks in the crisper. But when you do get fresh fruit, if you find some that are just like squishy, throw those out. Just you'll know they're bad. They'll be like shriveled up. But again, there's going to be some white fruit in there. They're totally fine. They still taste the same. But again, just wash them off when you get them, lay them on a towel flat to dry. And then we like to put them in like freezer bags, Ziploc bags. They're good to go. Just make sure they're completely dry before you put them back in for your storage.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally freeze cranberries every fall.
Yeah.
Because I really like them. And it is really hard to find them without, being dried and coated in sugar or those weird flavored ones. I'm sorry. I'm a purist.
No offense taken. That's
If I want something that tastes like an orange, I'll go eat an orange. I don't want to eat a cranberry that tastes like an orange. It's weird.
Fair enough. That's fair enough.
Anyway. All right.
We're going to move away from cranberry questions, but we'll probably come up with some more before the end.
Sure.
So you and your friend Becca started a podcast in 2020, right? Called Forward Farming. How did the two of you meet? Well, that's how it shows up on the feed anyway.
Okay.
How did the two of you meet and what's the origin story of your podcast?
Yeah. So I met Becca online, like most relationships nowadays. So I started my Instagram page, must have been in 2020 as well. And kind of like we said before, like I don't know the world outside of my nose, like the farming world. So like, even though I live in Wisconsin, I don't know much about the dairy industry. I don't know much about row crops. Like that's foreign to me. I don't know anything about it. So I try to find as many female farmers as I could on social media. And Becca was one of the first people that I followed. And the more I followed her, I was like, our personalities seem pretty similar. Like her sense of humor is kind of similar to mine. And before I started my Instagram page, I actually thought about starting a podcast first and calling that Cranberry Chats. But I talked to my brother about it, my older brother first. And I told him my idea, how I wanted it to be like all cranberry based and like all the people I wanted to talk to. And he said it was a dumb idea. So he's like, no one's going to want to listen to your squeaky little voice. Like what are you going to talk about in a year after you've covered everything? And I'm like, okay, that's a fair point. But maybe if I just take
tough love from your brother.
No kidding. And But it's fine. I'm used to it. But he's one of my biggest supporters, so I can't complain too much. But so that kind of led me to start my Instagram page. Is like, well, maybe if I just take pictures, I won't have to like talk too much. Lies. And so anyway, I started following Becca and I reached out to her and like, hey, how would you feel about starting a podcast where we talk about like the state fruit is cranberries and the state beverage of Wisconsin is milk? Like we could come up with like something fun here. And like we didn't know what we were doing. We're like those kind of people that just fly off the seat of our pants and we don't have a plan for anything. And she's like, yeah, let's do it. So I like watched 2 YouTube videos on how to start a podcast. I literally just typed in how to start podcast. We got microphones and then we set up our computers and it took us probably like an hour and a half to record our 1-minute introduction clip. And it took even longer for me to figure out how to edit. So that's kind of how it started. And then from there, so like our whole premise of our show is to talk about being women in agriculture, what it's like to be a female farmer while being a mother, while being a wife, and try to balance all these different hats that we're wearing. And then we also, this season, especially, we're really focusing on Wisconsin agriculture. So we're bringing in a bunch of different farmers from the state of Wisconsin and just kind of chit-chatting about, you know, specialty crops and things that people aren't familiar with or that you don't associate Wisconsin with. So it's been really fun. We've had some really great conversation and have learned a lot of things and had a lot of laughs and drank a lot of Busch Lights during it. So it's
Sorry, I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm trying to delete enough shit from my phone so I can subscribe to your podcast because right now my phone's like, don't even fucking think about trying to put something else on here. I'm like, phone, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did that too. I actually had to delete my podcast app because I didn't have enough storage. And then I'm like, I can't get rid of all these baby pictures from my phone. Like those are more important than podcasts. So sorry, my podcast rating is going to tank this week because I had to delete my app.
Yeah, I need to. There's a lot of podcasts I don't listen to anymore, so I need to delete some of them. I'm not going to name names. That feels kind of harsh to be like, all of you, your podcasts are not worth it. Sorry. So what has been your favorite part of having a podcast? And Arlene, I love that when you spelled favorite the Canadian way, Google was like, what the hell is this? And underlined it.
That is the right way to spell it.
But in
for
Canada,
the person who wrote
no.
document.
In Canada, does it spell check that as being incorrect?
No.
Weird.
No, it's correct.
Okay. Well, see, I learned something else today. So
yeah, me
good.
too. What was your question again? I'm sorry. What's been the best part about podcasting?
What's your favorite part of having
the American way? Just kidding. So my favorite part about our podcast is just learning about stuff. Again, like I don't know anything outside the cranberry industry. So to talk to people who are experienced in other forms of agriculture is always exciting to me. Like when we first started, I asked Becca what brand of cow she has. And apparently that's not right. So that's just kind of like our running joke. And people always look at me like I'm a freaking idiot. Like, what did you just say? Like, just go with it. What's your brand of cow? It's not a designer bag. You don't have a brand. Like, it might be a leather. It might be a designer bag one day. You don't know.
Some of them are pricey. It could be because of their branding.
Yeah, you never know.
I mean, out west, people learning. Do brand their cows. So I feel like in a lot of places that would be an acceptable question.
Thank you. That's
there.
So I was listening to one of your episodes the other day titled "Don't Have Sex Because You'll Get Pregnant and Die," which is the classic sex ed teacher line from the Mean Girls movie, which I love. So I will say I had chills listening to your birth story, but I'm not going to ask you to retell it. If anyone wants to hear all about it, they can go back. But that leads me to my next question, which was, how has the adjustment to parenthood been for you? You said you have a 8-month-old, so there's a lot has gone on in the last 8 months, we know, as parents. So how are you doing?
I'm great. Porter is just the sweetest thing. He gave me a run for my money during my pregnancy and with my labor, but he's making up for it in the real world. He's just the sweetest little thing, and it's great. But being like a full-time farmer and then to not do that is tough. So I'm very fortunate enough that I can be home with him right now and spend as much time with him as possible. But to have so many things change so fast and to kind of get out of your old routine and into this new routine and feel like you're not doing enough work, you're not feeling fulfilled in the ways that you were being fulfilled prior. It's a hard change because I worked really hard to get to the point where I was at work. I felt like I was really trying to prove my worth and kind of get up to a level where everybody was on a mutual understanding and respect with me, because you're kind of at the disadvantage of being a female, whether, it's just how it is. Like, you're not going to be one of the guys, but I busted my ass trying to get up there. And now it's like, I only come around when they're desperate for help. And it's like, I'm still here. Like, I can try to keep up. Like, I'm not going to, but I'm driving a lot slower than I used to because I actually care about if I'm alive or not. Like when I'm driving my dump truck, like I gotta be alive at the end of the day to take care of my little human. So that's kind of been the hardest part, is just adjusting to my new work-life balance. And I know this isn't going to be forever situation. So I'm just trying to enjoy the time that I can with him right now. And when I can go back to work, and kind of when all this COVID stuff dies down, maybe there'll be more daycare openings. Right now, because that's kind of why I'm home, is like I don't want to send to a daycare that I can't physically go in and see where he's staying, because like you're literally handing your kid through a window right now to go to daycare. And anyway, so just like kind of like that adjustment to being a stay-at-home mom and like being the like farm wife and like making dinners and stuff. Like, I'm not used to that. That's weird. I don't that's just not me. I want to be doing stuff, but I have to keep reminding myself that I am doing something really important, and like my job does matter, and it's just a different role, and just kind of that mental game that you're constantly playing with yourself on what you deem as a job well done for the day is kind of like the hardest adjustment. But it's great. I have no complaints, and he had his first meal of spaghetti and meatballs tonight right before we came on, and it was just the cutest thing ever. So I love it.
Has he had cranberries yet?
he he had cranberry sauce.
That counts.
Yeah, but like nothing. He hasn't had juice yet. I'm holding off on that for a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like, though, that's such an important part of why we started this podcast, is talking about things like there's such a vision that farm wives especially are supposed to like work right up until the baby like falls out of them, pick the kid up and go right back to it. And
Yeah.
like anything else is just being too delicate. But
Yeah,
also you should
and
be totally fulfilled at all times by spending your entire day with this small screaming person, despite however many years you've put into your work. And like we were
right.
talking in an interview last week, I said something about, one of my clearest memories of early motherhood with their first kid was like, our kitchen window looks out onto the barnyard, and like standing over the sink holding the baby, just sobbing because
Mhm.
everybody else was out there doing stuff. And I'm in here with the crying baby.
Yeah,
And it does get easier for sure in some ways, but
it's so isolating, just feeling like you're kind of fighting this. I don't want to say you're fighting this battle alone, but you really are. And your husband comes home and he's tired, and all you want to do is just pass him off and be like, take this, take this thing. But again, I think just communicating with your spouse and being like, I need to take some time for myself so I can be better tomorrow. And my husband's been really great about that. So he lets me. Oh my God, don't let me say that. But he's really great. I can pass Porter off to him when he gets home from work, and I'll have supper made. So all he has to do is just throw it in the oven for me, and I can go work out for an hour and just focus on myself and just feel recharged when I come back in. And that's been really great. But yeah, Porter was born at the end of August, and with Harvest September, I had to go right back out 6 weeks postpartum, and I was working, and he wasn't sleeping at night. So I'm not sleeping at night and getting up at the ass crack of dawn to go out and work all day in Wisconsin weather. It was it was a true survival mode. And I honestly don't know how we both survived. It was rough.
Well, and it's such bullshit that we expect parents, women especially though, to like justify every choice we make where we hand anything off. That like when I quit working when I was pregnant with our daughter because my blood pressure was just going through the roof, and like
Yeah.
feeling like I had to, like hang a little sign around my neck about why I wasn't working. And I'm like, just trust that if I'm not, we've talked about it and like made the decision that's best for our family. And
Yeah.
that shouldn't be anybody else's business about why we do what we do. So.
Right. When I was pregnant, so this is the first like the next generation out here. So my dad is my boss, obviously. And it was like I suddenly turned into Rapunzel when I was pregnant, like lock her up in a tower and protect her. And so I had to keep, and it's like, so like nothing, I couldn't really do a lot when I was pregnant either. Not that I couldn't do it, like I just wasn't allowed to do it. So it was like I had to keep reminding him, like, I don't have a disability. I'm just pregnant. Like I can still do this. If I can't, I'll let you know, but just like let me do it. And if I don't feel good, then I learn and then I won't do it again. Like I'm not stupid. I can let you know when I'm not feeling good. But anyway, I don't want to complain. I'm very blessed, very lucky to be in this situation where my employers let me, take this time and adjust everything. But it was just, yeah, during harvest, it was rough, but they gave me a lot of time off afterwards and just again, come back when we need you. And hopefully we'll see you in the summer. So we'll see how this summer goes.
So the next question here, he's what, 8 months old?
Yep. 8 months.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 months is when they start really getting fun. Does that seem right to you, Arlene? Because before that, like, I had a friend who was, sort of like trying not to complain about her newborn, but also saying like newborns are kind of boring.
Crazy.
Like, let's admit it. And I was like, you've basically been handed a lump of bread dough that screams and poops and doesn't do anything else. Like, like you love them because they're your baby, but 6 to
like
8
the
months,
highlight
like
of
they're
your
smiling,
day
they're
they
cute,
smile.
they eat stuff, like. So what has been your favorite part of this age and stage?
Everything. he's honestly so great. Like I think he's gonna be the sassiest little shit. Like I think he's gonna inherit my sass, which I'm loving. My husband's gonna hate it, but I think he's just gonna he's like blowing raspberries at just like the funniest time. Like he's got the comedic timing like down pat at 8 months old.
Yeah, you're screwed.
It's great. Like we took him to a church service for Easter, and like during the sermon, like during the pauses, he just like lets out this huge fart noise with his mouth, and like I'm laughing. I think it's hilarious. My mom's like mortified, and I'm like, it's fine. Like no one cares.
Everybody loves it.
Yeah, he just started crawling and getting into everything. So he has like this little John Deere gator like thing that he sits in, and he can like walk around in it. I don't know what it's called, but he's obsessed with our vacuum. We have a cordless Dyson, and he's running around in that today. And I was recording a podcast last week, and I left this vacuum like kind of sitting against the wall. And while I'm recording this podcast, he just comes over and rips it and like crashes into everything, crashes on top of them. And I'm like, oh God, people are going to think I killed my baby or something. But so today I learned my lesson, and I stopped using it, and I put it against a wall, and I barricaded it behind our trash can in a chair. So this little monster goes over and knocks our trash can over and then gets to the vacuum cleaner. Like he's a little trash panda. He loves our vacuum. Like he just gets into all this mischief, and it's so funny. Like it keeps me entertained during the day. Like I need this. Like it's good. So he's mobile and just like getting into everything, and for now it's funny. We'll see in a couple more months what it's like, but it's good.
It gets really hard having 2 kids who are like that, myself, and they're 16 months apart, and trying to like maintain any sense of discipline when you're trying not to laugh, because it's just ridiculous shit. And I know, like, our daughter wasn't 10 months old the first time I found her in the middle of the dining room table by herself. So be prepared for that level of
Perfect.
bullshit because they're
Yeah,
I
I have a really hard time not laughing at like uncomfortable situations or like inappropriate times. I think a lot of things are funny that I shouldn't be laughing at. So we'll see how this goes. Like if he like ever drops an F-bomb on me, I'm probably gonna laugh.
He's going to be the kid who figures out pretty quick what it takes to get mom giggling. He'll just
yeah.
keep going for those things.
I hope Dan is able to like be the cop, the bad cop in this relationship. I don't know how do you not laugh when a kid swears at you? Like it's kind of funny.
I'll just from experience, I'll say it's a little less funny when you get the calls from the school, but it's
that's true.
Still entertaining. Then you can find out whether they used it in the right context or not.
That's when you know you're in trouble if they used it correctly.
I don't know what's better or worse. Did they do it right?
I feel like I'd be angrier if they swore at someone incorrectly. Like, or if they were just mean. Like,
yeah.
I am much less concerned about them swearing than I am about them being mean to somebody.
That's true.
Which probably says a lot about me as a person, but whatever. I feel like parenting would be so much easier if you started out knowing how many things are totally normal. Like our daughter busted her front teeth, like chipped the bottoms of her teeth on a stair when she was little. And I was so horrified that like, what kind of mother would let this happen? And, one of my friends was like, just take her to the dentist. They'll file them down. And I took her in and the dentist was like, stairs or trampoline? And I was like, she goes, oh, it happens all the time. My kids did this. And I was like, why don't we just tell people that from the beginning so that they don't feel shitty about themselves when it happens? Like, apparently a huge majority of kids bust their front teeth doing some stupid shit. So there's my bit of wisdom.
And that's kind of like with our podcast too. Like we always try to talk about like the good things and the bad things. We try to start every episode off with like something good that happened, something bad that happened, just to remind people. Cause I mean, like everything you see on social media is just like all unicorns and rainbows. And like, you don't see the real. So we always like to try to remind people that like, no, we had a really shitty week. Here's what happened that, we don't want to talk about, but we're going to talk about it anyway to make you feel like we're normal. We're normal people and your normal problems are normal problems other people are having too. So I agree. I wish people would share more of their awkward, uncomfortable stories like that to let you know you're not the only one.
And I feel like if people get too judgy, just don't spend time with them. Like that's way easier than making your kid behave, in a way that they will find acceptable. Just don't hang out. Anyway.
So what are some of your future goals? So this can be in parenting, on the farm, and the podcast. What are you looking forward to? What things are you working on?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, being on a label, that'll be fun. I don't know. They keep pushing the date around on that. So I'm hoping it comes out this summer sometime. I don't know. I'll probably post about it when I find it. So that we're I'm really focusing on our podcast right now that I'm home and I have time to actually like focus on it. Before it was just kind of like, let's get it done and up. So now I'm really taking time to like dive deeper into like the guests that we're trying to bring on the show and make it more educational and not just always like a laughing situation, which is fun. But, I'd like to be a little bit more serious and a little bit more educational. So that's been fun. And just kind of working on changing my social media up a little bit because, you put so much time into this. It's nice. It would be nice to get like paid every once in a while. So trying to figure out ways to do that without having to like sign up for a big long course and like spend a lot of money to figure out how to make money off of Instagram. So you know what I mean? So just trying to like keep myself busy at home and while Porter naps and just trying to be present, I think is kind of like the biggest thing that I'm focusing on right now, instead of like being on my phone when Porter's playing or something, like get down and interact with him. Because, it's so easy to have your phone in your pocket and be like, oh, he's just rolling around. Let me check to see what's going on social media. But to just put my phone away and just be present with him, I think is kind of like my biggest goal that I try to do every week, and just be really focused on what's going in front of me instead of giving two shits what someone is doing elsewhere that doesn't impact me mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever. So just being in the moment and focusing what's in front of me is kind of my thing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I have to give a lot of credit to you parents who are, having kids during this, pandemic time, because I mean, mine are older and we had to deal with the homeschooling and all that kind of stuff. But, when my babies were little, I was a stay-at-home parent and I hardly ever stayed at home. There were lots of things going on. We could go to the library and there were story times and play groups and all that kind of stuff. And so I think it was probably easier. I always found it was easier to not check out if I was out in public. I mean, it
Yeah.
kind of keeps you accountable. I mean, it's good for the kids too, or that's what you tell yourself, but it's also it was good for me to try and, like to get out every day and do that kind of stuff. So I'm sure it's so much more challenging when those options are limited. And I mean, I mean,
Yeah.
we're on a farm, but we're fairly close to a town that has some of those things, and people who are more rural don't always have those things at all. So that's a
Yeah.
different situation too.
Yeah. Like with Porter, like we've only been to like the doctor's office and to church and like family members' houses. And that's it. Like we haven't gone anywhere with him. He hasn't been exposed to anything. Like I've never taken him to a grocery store, like any of that. So he's a true COVID baby, just like living in our own little bubble. And yeah, it's very hard not being able to go anywhere and or to like go outside. Like, it's been so cold and just kind of miserable. So we can't go out and go for walks that I usually do. And so like being cooped up is not fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I honestly hadn't even thought about the fact that with kids staying home, they're not getting all the shit that they normally start getting exposed to, real young.
Yeah.
Like our daughter got her first cold, licking the handle of a grocery cart at Walmart. Like I knew exactly when it happened. And, for these kids that aren't getting that sort of, exposure to all this shit, there's
Yeah.
something good to worry about. So,
Oh, here's Winnie, my cat.
oh, hi. Oh my God, she's beautiful though. And she knows it. Look at that face.
She
She's
does.
like,
She knows.
yes, I am.
She runs this house. Like there's no doubt about it. She's a true queen.
Fair enough. So we ask all of our guests, if you were going to dominate a category at a county fair, what would it be? And the categories can be real or made up to ensure that you win.
At a county fair?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't go to a lot of county fairs because like we don't show agriculture or anything. So if I had to make up something, I would probably be the best at rubbing dogs' bellies. Like I'm really great at finding the sweet spot on a dog, like to get their foot going. I don't know if that counts, but
That's a good one.
if that doesn't count, like at our annual Cranberry Festival, there's a biggest berry contest where you go out and like try to find the biggest cranberry that you can, and then you're judged based on your size. I'm pretty good at finding big cranberries too, so that could be my backup, but my real one.
I have to admit that when you said that you don't really show anything at the county fair, being, cranberry growers, that part of my brain just went to like what a cranberry show like in a ring might look like. You're like trying to square up your cranberries in the sand. Like, anyway, it's been a long day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Winnie,
On that. Oh, sorry.
Winnie's just going to finish up my interview for me. So I'm just going to,
Yeah.
just kidding.
On that note, I'm going to move into the cussing and discussing segment of the show. We've recently registered for an online platform called SpeakPipe, where you can leave your cussing and discussing entries for us and we'll play them on the show. So go to www.speakpipe.com/barnyardlanguage and leave us a voice memo, or you can always send us an email at barnyardlanguage@gmail.com and we can read it out for you. Katie, are you going to cuss or discuss this week?
I am going to cuss and discuss the embarrassment of being a rural Iowa farm mom of a certain age, having to go out and act like a human after 40 years of being a small town Iowan, and then almost 2 years of pandemic with little kids. I can't act like a decent human. Let's just accept it. All my coworkers want to go eat sushi. I've never had sushi because we live in Iowa, and I'm just not ready to go act like a human. And I'm going to
Where do you have to go to act like a human?
San Francisco, but I did hear that we're going to a food truck park, which is definitely my jam. Like, I'm fine with looking stupid. And
that's a good kind of park.
On an adjoining note, I realized that although I've worked with these people for almost 3 years, I have no idea how tall any of them are, because on Zoom, everyone is the same height. And so I decided that I think I'm just going to make a list of my guesses of how tall my coworkers are. And then I'm just going to see how close I get, because I'm going to have a 4-hour flight on the way there. I might as well do something.
That's a fun guessing game.
Yeah, I have no idea. I did hear today that one of my coworkers is actually 3 children in a trench coat. So we'll see if that's true or not. It seems reasonably possible. Amber, what do you have to cuss and discuss? And we'll let you start over if you need to like take a mulligan and redo it.
Oh gosh. I mean, what haven't I cussed and discussed about? Yeah, I'm right there with you on getting back to kind of normal. I met up with a couple of our internet friends probably about like a month ago now. And again, like nobody knew how tall I was. Like they were surprised how short I was when I finally met them all in person. Like I thought you were like 5'10", and I'm like, I'm 5'4". Thank you. But just like interacting with people, I felt so out of the loop that trying to sit down and have a conversation with people that I have like similar interest with, I couldn't do it. Like if I wasn't talking in my baby voice, I don't know how to talk to like normal adults. Like it's hard. I had no idea what to talk about or like normal things to talk about. So it's kind of awkward. I'm just like feeling all this pressure to be like this bubbly type of person, but I'm just not finding things to talk about because I don't go outside. I don't know what's going on. And like, so did you guys watch the Kardashians? Like, do you want to talk about that? I don't know what else to talk about, but so yeah, just trying to get back to normal and finding things to talk about after you've been locked in a house with a baby for 6 months it's a tough one.
It's tough, and especially if you're dealing with like non-ag people, because you're like, you want to talk about like beef prices or something? Like, I will not talk about semen. I will not talk about fences. I got nothing left, no. If we get like non-ag related, I got nothing. So
yeah, I've got like 5 things in my pocket I can talk about, but once I run out, I'm done. Like, sorry.
Maybe
like, can I go to sleep?
We need to start preparing.
Getting really tired too. You know, like actually being around people and
it's exhausting.
Making eye contact and all that kind of stuff. It's tiring.
Well, and maybe that's part of it too. But my coworkers are like, they want to go out and have drinks after dinner. And San Francisco's 2 hours behind us. So when they're like, we're going to go out at 8:30. And I'm like, well, that's 10:30 my time. That's solidly 2 hours after my bedtime. And I'm just like, and you're going to go out then?
Isn't it the other way, Katie? Won't it be earlier? It'll feel like
it'll be like 10:30 my time. 8:30 in San Francisco is 10:30 our time.
Yes, got it. I am so bad at time zones. Okay, I had something else, but I'm going to cuss time zones because I'm so brutal at them. Because Katie and I are only an hour apart, and I still constantly mess up which direction I'm going and where the clock is. And I'm always messing that up. So
I found out
that's
the other
the way
day,
time zones work.
Arlena, I thought there were 24 time zones. I don't know why I thought that. Totally not true. There's a fuck ton of them.
That's a lot.
I don't know, a ton. Like,
there's more than that.
Yeah, it was a lot. Okay. I don't know. I was so shocked by the fact that there were more than 24 that I just like stopped there and didn't get into. I'm totally Googling this right now.
Look it up for us. It makes sense though. 24 hours in a day. I mean, like, how confusing are we going to make?
Oh wait, no. This says there are 24.
Oh, okay.
But they're theoretically drawn vertically. But there's actually like, Well, this says there's 37. So
Well, I know like in Canada,
Oh.
there's one province that's a half an hour different. So
The
like
fuck is that?
well, Newfoundland likes to do things differently.
And then there's like Indiana that's like half the time on one. There are 37 different local time zones in use. 37.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
don't
cuss
know.
you time zones.
I
The
don't
thing
know.
I had though, I'm going to say it anyway because I'll
Do
forget.
it.
So twice now I have tried to put, well, no, the contractor did it the first time and the towel rod came out of the wall. I mean, it was in there for a long time. Then I put some anchors in, put now another towel rod in the bathroom wall. It didn't last nearly as long as when the contractor did it. And I got the wall patched up and I was very proud of myself because I actually remembered which paint color was the bathroom. I almost put the wrong paint color on, but then I found the right one. So the wall is fixed and I'm done with towel rods that attach to the wall. And now I have a freestanding one that works much better. So
I really
hooray
thought this
for the
was
right
gonna
paint.
I thought this was gonna go like our text conversation about fencing contractors, which was basically the best
No.
thing I've ever heard. One of our recent guests described their fencing person as doing work that looks like he slammed 4 Irish car bombs before he started, which
Oh,
is really pretty descriptive about what quality of
yeah,
fence he's putting out.
that's actually, that put a perfect image in my head. So
Yeah.
that's great.
My
Yeah.
bathroom looks much better than that. I'm just saying.
Good.
Good.
So thank you, Amber, for joining us this evening. Where can people find you online? Where can they find your podcast? Anything else you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, thank you guys again for having me on. You can find me Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all Cranberry Chat. I do have a YouTube page, but I don't know. That's hard to do when you're stuck in a house. When I get back out there, it'll probably go up again. Again, search Cranberry Chats, you'll find me. And then also our podcast is called Forward Farming, and we put out new episodes every Tuesday. So you can find us there.
Thank you for joining us today on Barnyard Language. If you enjoy the show, we encourage you to support us by becoming a patron. Go to www.patreon.com/Barnyard Language to make a small monthly donation to help cover the costs of making the show.
Please rate and review the podcast and follow the show so you never miss an episode.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as Barnyard Language, and on Twitter, we are Barnyard Pod. If you'd like to connect with other farming families, you can join our private Barnyard Language Facebook group.
We're always in search of future guests for the podcast. If you or someone you know would like to chat with us, get in touch. We are a proud member of the Positively Farming Media Podcast Network.